to the race weekend. I'm Joe St. George in New York. Simply being charged with 34 felony counts, much less being convicted of them, would be enough to sink most presidential candidates. But as we've seen, former President Donald Trump has defied expectations before. Like we discussed earlier in the show, most voters aren't going to change their votes because of this verdict. In fact, some voters may flock to him as a result of this verdict from Lower Manhattan. One thing, however, is certain. Former President Donald Trump is leading in most national polls. An average of polls from Real Clear Politics shows he's up slightly against President Biden at this stage of the race. So will Trump's support dip, or will more rally to his re-election efforts? Let's keep the conversation going. Republican strategist Kate Monroe is here to size up Mr. Trump's political fortunes post-conviction. Kate, welcome. Mr. Trump doesn't appear to be losing support over this conviction from Republicans. Do you think he could be losing support at all among independents, though?
No, I don't think so, because by nature of being independent, you're sort of saying, I'm going to go for the person who I think has America's best interest in mind, my own best interest in mind. And I think people can tell that we're running toward a totalitarian state, and people are very scared. They say, if this can happen to a president, which is unprecedented, what then could happen to me? How far do we have to keep going till we slide all the way toward communism? I think he will do very well with the independents. Many independents I talk to tell me Trump's their man.
You don't really think, though, we're sliding into a totalitarian state, do you, Kate?
When you can weaponize your justice system in the way that we have been, it doesn't take too many clicks to get there. If you look at other nations around the globe over many different generations, at first it seemed like they were just sliding a little bit, and then all of a sudden you are all the way there. What I'm saying is we need to stop it before it gets too far, before we hit the event horizon.
But ultimately, as you know, we have a long way to go until those first votes get counted, although not that long. Some Americans will begin voting in late September. It's really a voting season nowadays, not election day. But this conviction, it's not going to be the top issue on the minds of voters, do you think? I mean, aren't more people worried about the economy or the border or democracy?
I think they're 100% worried about democracy, and really they should be worried about their republic, because that's really what we are, right, is a republic. I think that they are worried about that. They're worried about inflation. They're worried about the border. You know, I go down to the border quite often. People would say I'm the ringleader of the border vets going down to actually secure the border. I think people absolutely are looking towards safety, economic safety, personal safety for their families.
But I want to ask you about these other potential cases, these other trials involving former President Trump. If the Supreme Court comes back soon with an opinion on presidential immunity and says former President Trump's January 6th case can proceed to trial, this New York case was about business fraud. That would be about January 6th. Do you worry that that trial could potentially hurt him in ways the New York verdict has not?
I don't think so. Not that it's not hurtful.
Really?
You know, it's been hurtful ever since it happened, right? They've been beating the drum of this January 6th thing for a very long time. This isn't new. This isn't front of mind, I don't think, for many who are in Trump's camp at all. I do think if you look at January 6th, it's already been proven that he didn't really rally all those people toward that. Much of the footage from that day has been released. So the narrative that they used to get this trial or to set precedent to get him into a trial on this, I don't think is going to stick. I think he did get convicted here, but I don't think he's going to get convicted for the January 6th.
But the optics, though, I mean, this one, for regular folks at home, a business fraud, wire transactions, it's very technical. A January 6th trial creates a visceral emotion. You see the images of that day. People died at the Capitol that day. A totally different set of facts.
Yeah, it was a very ugly situation what happened at the Capitol, and much of that could have been avoided. You know, a lot of that happened because of the reaction from the Capitol Police toward the people in the crowd. I've met a lot of people that were there, and the story that they tell is very different than the narrative being presented on the news. I think, you know, if you're going to talk about people's emotions, people need to be emotional about what's going on in our country with our open border, with the president getting convicted, which is unprecedented. People need to be emotional about the state of our country, of our economy, of the wars that could be breaking out all over the world. That's where people's emotional focus should be, on their safety.
Former President Trump is set to be sentenced on July 11th. That is a few days away before the press, the world, political world, gathers in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. Mr. Trump is clearly comfortable playing, a bit of a victim card here. I mean, do you expect the sentencing to play a role now in the convention planning?
I don't think so. I mean, I think people are full steam ahead, and I don't know that he's playing a victim card. I think he is a victim of what is going on. I think that they're weaponizing our justice system, and he certainly is a victim of that. And if we as Americans allow that to stand, we too could be victims of that. I think if you look yesterday, his donation site crashed. I wonder why that is. I don't think it hurt him. I think people went, you know what, enough is enough, and I'm actually going to step in and support somebody that I had no intention of supporting until today. So I don't think it's going to change their planning. If anything, he's going to pick up speed rolling into the general election.
And real quick, I mean, what does this mean for the future of the Republican Party? Or is this a case where former President Trump can really get away with something where, let's say, another conservative would not be able to? I mean, Mr. Trump has survived tapes, he's survived indictments, and for all intents and purposes, at least our view this weekend, he's surviving this verdict.
Yeah, he's not just surviving, he's thriving. In 1997, he wrote The Art of the Comeback. This is what Trump does best. When they first got that mugshot, he turned it into merchandise. So it's really hard to get anything to stick to him because he has his blinders on looking forward toward a win. If you're looking at people who get out of things, I mean, you could just look to the Bidens, the Obamas, to Fauci, to the Clintons, who have a body trail behind them a mile long. Nothing sticks to these people, right? We don't even put it in the news, all their nonsense. But President Trump, we want to beat that drum all day long. It's totally political weaponization, in my opinion.
Well, and to be clear, though, there's no evidence of a body trail behind the Clintons. We'll have to leave it there. I just got to provide some context, some facts for our viewers. But we appreciate the conversation, Kate, because it gives us some good insight into the conservative thinking process following this historic verdict here in New York City. Come back to the race weekend anytime. Kate Monroe, Republican strategist, thank you so much. Coming